Hey everyone, it's your battle, Jelly, from Dedpul and Friends. Today we will be going over the top Ikorian cards for the Commander format in Magic the Gathering, which releases in May 15th. So I've broken this video up in three sections. The Commanders themselves, the Companions, and great cards to consider in general for EDH or Commander. I've also added a short bonus section in the end, so stick around. It will be worth your time. Alright guys, let's go look at the Commanders themselves. In not any particular order, these are the 6 that I would recommend to look forward to when you look for a Commander from the set. So the first one here is General Kudro of Drannith. Now it's a very heavy looking Attack on Titan kind of card, right? So he's very big for human decks, as you can see, right? You got the Ortov kind of color, black and white, and he's 3 mana, so it's very doable to bring him out pretty early. You have here other humans you control get +1/+1. So if you're making a weenie like human deck, why not, right? So, but his abilities are also awesome here too. Whenever he or another human enters the battlefield under your control, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. So not only will he boost your creatures, but he can also start doing a lot of graveyard hate, especially those that have decks that keep pumping out these little human tokens or anything in general. The final ability right here, pay 2, sacrifice 2 humans. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. It's pretty awesome how he can just he's very versatile. So not only does he boost your creatures up, you can exile stuff from graveyards, but you can also clear the battlefield. He's very versatile, and I can see how he could be a very powerful opening. Alright, the next card we're looking at is Illuna, Apex of Wishes. This is one of the first cards we've seen that had the mutate ability, which means that you have to cast a spell on top of another non-human creature, right? Commander tax does apply, so if it does go back to the command zone for any reason, you will have to pay 2 on top of the mutate costs, for as many times as it's been in the command zone, right? But look at its abilities. You have flying, you have trample, and it's a 6/6, so right up the top is just a really badass creature to start with, right? And you get to add this on top of another creature. Now its ability is pretty sweet to look at. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Planeswalker, creatures, artifacts, enchantments. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand. So you have the option of either keeping it in your hand or putting it on the field. But the fact that you can bring out any non-land permanent card, it's a really awesome cascade card, but pretty much for anything else. So it comes out and you get a free card to come out with it. Sweet. Alright guys, so the next card, Nethroi, Apex of Death, is another really cool mutate commander. With Death Touch and Lifelink, it kind of reminds me a little of Atraxa, but not really. Because if you look at it, it definitely has the Golgari feel to it when you look at its ability. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So any number with under power 10 or less, that's pretty cool. Especially just to mutate it for 7 mana. Whew. And the fact that it does have Death Touch and Lifelink on a 5/5 creature, at least, it's nothing to sneeze at. Alright guys, I said I wasn't going to be choosing any favorites, but this is the commander card that I'm looking forward to actually building a deck around. It is Kinen Fonder Prodigy. Prodigy? It's a 2-drop, so it means that it can come out really fast, and you can regurgitate him pretty often. I mean, he comes out for 2, so it's really nice. His ability says, whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produce. So your artifacts, your creatures, any enchantments that makes your creatures double in mana or anything like that, wow, he boosts them pretty fast. So you can be sure that this would be a very fast deck. But his actual activated ability for 7 mana, which is probably not going to be an issue for him, is you look at the top 5 cards of your library, you look for a non-human creature card, and put it on the battlefield. So you can have like one of those Godzilla cards, or anything huge like that, and then put it on the battlefield for 7. That's pretty sweet. The next card we have is Kogla, the Titan Ape, also known as Donkey Kong or King Kong. This one is a really good card, especially if you're thinking about going mono green Voltron, where you have a bunch of your cards make this guy even beefier and support this guy in general. So when he enters the battlefield, he pit fights, right? He can fight another target creature that you don't control. Just be aware and be careful of fighting something that has Death Touch, because that would kill it. When he attacks, you get to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Sweet, alright, a little killy. And its activated ability for 2 mana, you return a target human back to your hand, and it becomes indestructible. Reminds me of the Temur Sabertooth. So you can make him indestructible, he can destroy things, and he gets to fight things. So if you could blink him, cool. Makes him a very viable Voltron commander. Oh hey look, it's Chevill, the Bane of monsters. For a 2-drop, he is not bad as a commander. He comes out really fast. Okay, so we'll look at his thing, right? He has Death Touch, he's a 1/3. Okay, not bad. But he puts bounty counters on target creature or planeswalker that an opponent controls when it dies or it leaves the battlefield. When it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. So for Golgari to do that, where something dies and you benefit by gaining life and refilling your hand, that's a pretty awesome card. Even if you don't use it as a commander, I can see it very viable as one of the 99. But for 2 mana as a commander, you can keep regurgitating him out very easily. Alright guys, now we're going to go into the companions. Right, so the companions is a new concept in which you put it in one of your 15 of your sideboard, and if the deck fulfills its requirements, you can cast it once outside of the game for paying its mana cost. So the first card I'm looking at is Obosh, the Preypiercer. Now, his stipulation is that your deck itself has to be only cards with odd converted mana costs and land cards. And it does something really awesome, is that if any of your sources would deal damage to a permanent or player, it would double that damage. Me personally, I would use this for Nekuzar. He's that commander guy that deals damage every card that your opponent draws. So it would double that damage. Instead of taking 1 damage for them to draw 1 card, they would take 2. Alright, you guys seen this card before. Gyruda, Doom of Deaths. It's currently a very dominating card even in Magic Arena. But let's see how it works with Companion here for Commander, right? So it's the opposite of the other card, the Obosh card, where you have to have a starting deck with even converted mana cost, right? So when it enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into the graveyard. Okay, definitely a little millie here. And then you can put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from any of those cards onto the battlefield under your control. This would be really fun to play a pod of 4 with, right? Because you kind of have that option to choose any of them, just as long as it's an even converted mana cost. So if it's like a 12-drop, okay, cool. It's a really interesting concept, but it really upholds the mill cards. I can see this in like Una, the Queen of the Fae kind of cards, and decks. This would be pretty cool to add. But whew, a 6/6 companion, nothing to sneeze at by itself. We have next Zirda, the Dawnwaker. So it's a cute little elemental fox for 3 mana. So its stipulation is that each permanent card in your starting deck has to have an activated ability, and activated abilities would cost 2 less to activate if they are not mana abilities. but it can't cost less than 1 mana, so you can't really do anything for free. But it would be amazing in decks that are run by Mael the Anima, or either of the Sliver commanders, like Sliver Overlord or Sliver Queen. You can even put it in Tajik, the Legion's Edge. He's that Boros commander. Or for what a lot of people might use this card for, would be part of Scion of the Dragon deck. You know, make your dragons come out even cheaper, or make him pump up with the dragons even cheaper. I can see this being very useful in these kind of commander decks. Gigantha No Wellspring. So it's a very interesting card because it states that no card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. So that would mean, for example, if you have a Soul Ring, you cannot have a Sensei's Divining Top because they both have the same mana symbol of one colorless. So be aware of that stuff. But it does have a really cool ability because it adds one of each specific color. The caveat to that is you can't use it to spend generic mana costs. On the other hand, this is great for your commanders if you have like Sliver Queen, Sliver Overlord, if you have the Dragon or Alara, any of those like heavy mana intensive color commanders, this would be very beneficial to bring him out so much quicker. Lurrus of the Dream Den. So he's meant for very fast decks because each permanent card in your deck has to be 2 or less converted mana cost. Yeesh. But look at his ability. Besides the fact that he's lifelink, during each of your turns you can cast one permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard. So cool. I can cast things from the graveyard without having to worry about another kind of ability. The only decks I can think that you would really want to put this in for would be like Eiley, the Eternal Pilgrim, or Karlov of the Ghost Council, because they're both 2-drop commanders. But if you can afford to, this would be a very interesting companion to add in those decks. Alright guys, I just wanted to mention this because as all the commander players should know, Lutri, the spell-chasing elemental otter, is banned from Commander since day 1. Each non-land card has to have a different name. What is Commander? A deck that has different card, non-basic... it was made for Commander. But it has Flash, and you can copy an instant or sorcery that you control for 3 mana for basically whatever a Commander already does. So it's easy to see how it got banned really quickly. I just wanted to pull it out so you guys can see it too. Poor little otter. Alright guys, now we're going to talk about the cards that we're looking forward to in Commander from this set. So the first thing that we're looking at is Mythos of Netherroy. It's a 3-drop that says you can destroy, a non-land permanent if it's a creature. At instant speed for 3 mana, that's pretty cool. But if you add Selesnya colors in it, then you can destroy any non-land permanent, which makes it really awesome. So we have here the Shark Typhoon, or as we like to call it, the Sharknado card. It's a really interesting enchantment meant for non-creature decks, right? So when you cast a non-creature spell, you can make a flying blue shark with XX, where X is the spell's converted mana cost. And you can cycle it if you don't have the 6 mana to pull it up. But when you cycle it, you can still make a flying shark token. So it's pretty cool because if you're like countering people's spells, or if you're using a Jeskai colored deck, especially if you're trying to build a Narset kind of deck theme, sure, why not? Shark Typhoon would be really interesting because as you're defending yourself or just not really caring about building up creatures, you can still build up a flying shark army. Ooh, this is a beautiful kind of card. So you have Song of Creation, which is a Ketria or a Temur kind of color theme. It's a good kind of theme. You can play an additional land from each of your turns. That's where the green color is. You can, when you cast a spell, you draw 2 cards, which is where the blue color comes in. And of course, red has to pop in and say, okay, discard your hand at your end step. So it's a good balanced card. For 4 mana, it's really not bad because you can benefit from playing an extra land, drawing more cards, and if your opponent likes to do weird things with your hand, okay, don't give them that control. So I normally don't recommend Planeswalkers in decks, but I think that it's worth to look at all 3 of the Planeswalkers because they have worked really hard in making them usable for Commander. So if you look at Vivian, Monster's Advocate, she's a 5-drop. Okay, she's the same as the other mono green 5-drop commanders like the elf, right? So you look at it, look at the top card of your library at any time. Cool, I don't have to reveal it. Then it says you may cast creature spells from top of your library. Sweet. Okay, so I have a bigger hand in a way. It's +1, make a 3/3 creature token, and you can give it some kind of vigilance counter, reach, or trample. Okay, not bad. But it's -2, which you can do right from the get-go, is when you cast your next creature spell, search your library for a creature card with lesser converted mana cost and put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. So it essentially means that each creature spell, or at least the next one, will have a battle buddy. It will have a little friend to come with. So this could be a very interesting kind of team building card. It's not bad for 5 mana. Alright guys, the next card is the Whirlwind of Thought, which is a Jeskai color, or now known as a Ralgrin color scheme, because you have blue, red, and white. Alright, it sits on the battlefield for you, right? It's an enchantment, and when you cast a non-creature spell, counter spells, Cyclonic Rift, anything like that, draw a card. Cool. It's a really cheap and easy draw, cantrip card. Ugh, this guy. Alright, personal reasons, I don't like him. But if I had to run him, freaking awesome. The Drannith Magistrate, right? Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. Cool. You know, you stop people from pulling stuff out from their graveyard or from their library. But what this also tells me is that I can't cast my commander if he's in the command zone, if I'm the opponent. So, and this is pretty cool because it is very one-sided. If he is my one of my 99, I'm still safe, but you can be pretty sure that he's gonna be targeted pretty quickly. Damn, it's a pretty good 8-bear card. All right, we got another Ultimatum card. All right, we got it in Azban colors, or in Datha. It's called Eerie Ultamatum. All right, so it's very heavy on the colors, 7-drop once again, but look at what it does. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield. Alright guys, I'm not saying that you should have it, but if you're running like an Atraxa deck and you have all these different, you got all the planeswalkers and all the creatures that do really awesome things, or enchantments, this is basically a free card to bring them all out from your graveyard back to the field. It's a great late gamer, especially in Commander. Everything has a different name, right? So if you're running a lot of permanents, definitely recommend it. Alright guys, we got some Golgari love in here with Fiend Artisan. Okay, so at first glance, alright, it's a mythic creature for 2, non-legendary. So let's see what comes out with. Gets a +1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Alright, cool, he can get pretty big. But it's his activated ability that's really cool. Alright, you pay X with one of the Golgari colors and you tap it and sacrifice a creature. Seems a lot, but bear with me. It's a tutor card. You search your library for a creature card with converted mana X or less, put it on the battlefield, and shuffle your library. You can only do it at your sorcery speed, so at main phase 1 or 2, but it's a free tutor in these colors, so it's pretty cool. And it doesn't even say what kind of creature. I can just have like a creature token, sack that for whatever reason, and bring out a bigger, badder creature if I need to. We got the Gem Raiser. For 4 mana, but look at it for his mutate. For 3 mana, he's got reach and trample that you can put on a creature, a non-human creature, right? But when he mutates, you can destroy a target artifact or enchantment that an opponent controls. So it's pretty cool that not only do you get a reach, trample, 4/4 creature, you can destroy something. So say goodbye to their shark tornadoes and all that. It's a really great card to have. The next planeswalker that we're looking at is Luca, Copper Coat Outcast. Now normally I would not really look twice at a lot of these mono red planeswalkers, but I would give him a chance, at least look at him, right? So his thing says, you can exile the top 3 cards of your library, and the creature cards can still be played or cast as long as you control a Luca planeswalker, which so far this is the only Luca we got, right? -2 is you get to exile a target creature you control, then reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card with a higher converted mana cost, and then put that on the battlefield. That's pretty cool, okay. So at least you're guaranteed to put out something bigger than what you had. I mean, I guess you can do that with tokens too. Sure, why not? Oh, but it's -7. Okay, so its ultimate says each creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Wow. So if you have a lot of dragons, I guess it's KO for them. Bring it out turn 5, 2 turns later, dead. Oh, the epitome of mono red. Alright, so we have Narset of the Ancient Way. So it was really cool because we were only able to first see Luca and Vivian. We were left guessing to see who was the third planeswalker. But if you looked at the flavor text for a lot of the cards, you were able to see, oh, Narset was mentioned here, or Narset talked to Vivian that this plains is full of creatures, and she got real excited. For +1, you can gain 2 life, add 1 of these specific colors, and you can spend this mana only to cast a non-creature spell. Very much Jeskai kind of feel. The -2 is, okay, cool, draw a card, discard a card. Got that blue-red kind of feel to it. When you discard a non-land card, it deals damage equal to that card's converted cost to target creature or planeswalker. That's kind of like a Boros feel to it. It's really cool to see how the colors kind of focus on what its abilities do, so it's really sweet to see that. The -6 says you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage to any target. You can see this being very big in Storm decks, so be wary when you see this on the battlefield, kill it. So the next card is Mythos of Snapdax, which is really cool because it reminds me of an older card called Cataclysm. If you look at what it does, each player will choose an artifact, creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker, and you sacrifice the rest of your non-land permanents, right? Pretty cool. But once you add Rakdos, you get to choose for them what they have to sacrifice and what they can keep. So it's a really cool one-sided kind of spell. And for 4 mana to do an very hardcore board wipe like this, yeah. Yes, please. Ruinous Ultimatum. Wow. Okay, so once again, I don't really like a lot of ultimatums, but this one is definitely worth the look. 7-drop, straight up colors. It says to destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control. So while all of your creatures and your humans and all your little dudes and whatever are safe, your opponents have to destroy all of theirs. It's a really cool one-sided board wipe for 7 mana. Might be worth the look. So the last card I want to mention here is the Luminous Broodmoth. For 4 mana, non-legendary creature, it's mythic. So very curious. It's a flying creature that says, whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it. So that's really interesting on its own. Right from the bat, you can see that there can be a lot of interesting combos with this card, and it can benefit, let's say, for example, your human decks. Okay, none of them have flying. Now they get to come back on the field if they're not tokens, and they can continue doing what they're doing as angels or as moths. Alright guys, thanks for making it with me here in the end. So as a bonus, I want to go over some infinite combos in Ikoria. I'm only going to go over 5 today, but I want to make sure that we're all tracking on what they are. So something that really stood out to me, especially when we were talking about this in our video earlier, is the Luminous Broodmoth. You can see from that card that it has possibilities for a lot of great things. Most importantly, the infinite combos. So if you look at here, you can see the Luminous Broodmoth with some kind of sack outlet like Phyrexian Altar, and also a creature with either Persist or Undying. So I'm going to look at Persist first, right? If you look at this infinite combo and you have all 3 out, Kitchen Finks will grant you infinite life. But with Phyrexian Altar, you get infinite mana. So I guess this is a way to get your opponents to scoop. So the way that this would work is when it dies due to Phyrexian Altar, it depends on what you decide would trigger first, whether it's the Persist or the flying counter on it. You just choose the other one when it dies. So like let's say Kitchen Finks dies first, okay, didn't have a -1 counter on it, so it comes back to the field with a minus counter, then a flying counter. On the other hand, when it dies again, you can choose to have the flying counter happen first and then persist. So it's very interesting to see it happen, and it is an infinite combo for this. The next infinite combo is Flayer of the Hatebound. So I chose these 2 cards because they both have an enter the battlefield effect that can occur for this infinite combo. So Flayer of the Hatebound says, okay, when he or another creature enters the battlefield from your graveyard, this creature deals damage equal to its power to any target. So for the Broodmoth to happen, it dies, comes back on the field, and you can just keep sacking it to just deal infinite damage to, well, anything really. Well, creatures, planeswalkers, and players. Sure, you know, you can snipe out everything before you decide to go for the player themselves. But this is a really cool card, especially you have these Boros colors. Why not? Alright, so another type of infinite combo that you see with the Broodmoth is Solemnity, right? So if you look at it, players can't get counters, meh. But the second part is counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. That part is the important part here, because Broodmoth puts a flying counter on a creature, but this card says no, you can't put it. So that can be that is an infinite loop in itself. So if you look at a card like one of the recent ones from Theros Beyond Death, Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger, okay, he comes out for 2, but he also enters the battlefield and you have to sacrifice it unless it escapes. So it would just kill itself right away. You don't need a sack outlet for him. When he enters the battlefield or attack, each opponent discards a card. Cool. But each opponent that doesn't discard a non-land card has to lose 3 life. So you can just keep pinging them for damage, and they will lose cards from their hands for as long as you have the Broodmoth and Solemnity and this guy popping out. It's a very interesting concept. You could do it with the other escape creature. I think it's a green-blue legendary creature, but that one says you gain 3 life and you draw a card, and you can accidentally mill yourself and lose the game. So I'd recommend Kroxa over here over than what's his name, Uro? Alright, so another one I saw when I was looking stuff up is something you can actually add in Azorius decks. So you have Azorius Herald for 3. He can't be blocked. Sweet, okay. Well, but his thing is whenever he enters battlefield, you gain 4 life. And you'd have to sacrifice him if you didn't pay blue to cast it. So it's one of those, alright, I play all 3 and so it depends on how you want them to scoop. I don't know. But that's a very interesting way of going at it. So those are the 4 normal infant combos for Broodmoth here. But there's a 5th one I want to look at just real briefly, and it's using the Blasting Station instead of Phyrexian Altar or any of the other sack outlets. So let's say you're running a Selesnya green-white deck. right? So it enters battlefield, you gain 2 life, you can sack it, and deal damage. I personally like Blasting Station because it's like, instead of gaining mana, especially if I know this is the end game for me, cool. Just 3 cards to do infinite damage and you get infinite life. Little overkill, but you know what? What is Commander if it's not about combos or whatever? There's a lot of other fun combos that you don't have to go infinite for, but I just thought that Luminous Broodmoth was very interesting, that it opened itself up for infinite combos. So just be aware, if you see that from one of your opponent's side, yeah, you probably want to get rid of it. Hey everyone! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more from me again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe before you go. Also, Dedpul and Friends are active in other media outlets like Twitch and Instagram, so be sure to visit us there too. Later, battles. Jelly out. Subscribe before you go. Also, Dedpul and Friends are active in other media outlets like Twitch and Instagram, so be sure to visit us there too. Later, battles. Jelly